topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Donna Campbell. I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm the host of Real Estate Dreams and Beyond. You can tune in every Monday at 3 o'clock and come live with us. We're here to provide you with real estate solutions. And today I have the honor of having some very special guests on my show. So first, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Lucia Core. She is the owner of Elsie's Credit Solutions. And I would also like to introduce that we'll be having special guest Eric Bruns, as well as Stephen Brock. And Eric is a financial wealth strategist, and he's going to be providing us some insight to S Corps today and other types of wealth strategies. And Stephen, okay, so I've done most of my loans with him, so he has a very special place in my heart. Stephen is with Family Mortgage, and he is going to be talking to us today about VA loans, some shoulds, some shouldn'ts, and some other insight into what's going on right now with the Live Local Act. So hi, everybody.
Hey, Donna.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for having us.
So, well, thank you. Well, first of all, I want everyone to know that both Eric and Stephen and Lucia are all affiliates with the Board of Realtors, and that's how I was privileged enough to meet them. And before that, I feel like Eric and Stephen was actually brothers from maybe another mother, and they both have served our country. So I'd like to just kind of kick it off with both of you just telling a little bit about yourselves. If you don't mind, you want to go, Eric?
Sure, yeah. And just because Stephen and I don't like each other doesn't mean we're like siblings or anything. We can go from there. So I know our ribbing on each other from what we picked up in the Army. Usually people are like, huh, what's going on there? But it's a good thing. So thanks for having me on, Donna. So like I said, my name's Eric Bruns. I'm a 8 million different things you can call me. I just prefer to call myself a financial planner. I'm the owner of Vanir Wealth Strategies, and I work primarily with real estate agents, helping them turn their financial assumptions into facts. So that's what I do.
Very nice. And then what branch of the military did you serve in?
So I did 10 years active duty on the Army, and I'm still in the Army Reserve.
Oh, wow. How about that? And what did you specialize in?
So I was a field artillery officer, which means I basically controlled a lot of the things that made big explosions, from small mortars up to very large attack craft with bombs and things like that. So.
And how many places were you stationed?
Well, quite a few places, from a lot of places around overseas. Yeah.
Too many to count.
How many?
Yeah.
From overseas, from like Afghanistan, Korea, a few other various places in the Middle East. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for your service.
Thanks, Don.
Yes, thank you.
And Mr. Brock, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Stephen Brock with Family Mortgage. I'm a loan originator. So also helping real estate agents achieve their dreams. Go right off of Eric's. I'm going to start using that at our meetings from now on. You go first.
You got to come up with a better slogan.
I was also in the Army 9 years. I did the little guns. I was infantry. So no big booms for me, just little booms.
Little boom.
I've known Eric for several years now, and how many places I've been stationed, I don't even know if I can count them.
How did you guys meet through the board, or did you meet before that?
No, we met before that, actually. I don't know if we started a veterans group as well once we got back here. We didn't know each other in the service.
Oh, wow.
That was pretty much all on Stephen that we met. It's not my responsibility. It's all on him.
Yeah, it's all me. Just message everybody on LinkedIn to say, hey, let's make a group. No.
That's all right.
I met Steven, through the board, but also a taco. He took me to Papi Chula's for our first meeting when we met. And not too long after that, we closed our first deal together. So
Never look back.
That's awesome.
yeah,
Get him with the taco.
I know, right? I love our transactions because they're so stress-free. And I think it's important when you have a lender that they also give you that feeling. You don't want to be stressed out to the max, and they do seem to make it very easy for you at Family Mortgage. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Thank you. We do appreciate that.
You got to make it a little fun. You got to make it a little fun for such a stressful, this is like the biggest investment for most people. So it has to be a little fun.
It has to
and
be.
I'm sure Steven provides a little fun when he's crazy.
I'm sure he throws a little curveball in there periodically too. It's interesting. I mean, you don't want to be
especially with
boring.
appraisals now. Appraisals are the biggest thing now. Is like, they're kind of coming over the asking price or whatever the contract is. So I'll be like, hey, your appraisal didn't come back at your contract price, and everybody like, oh, what happened? I'm like, it came over. Like, you have instant equity. They're
Is that what's going on right now? You're seeing a lot of that?
We're seeing that more often because people are negotiating the prices that you're seeing. Not tremendous, but
Yeah, but there's a 7 to
3,000,
10% spread off of asking. So
yeah. So you're definitely
Very
seeing
nice.
them come in.
Well, that's nice to hear that they're coming in, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I was hearing that they were coming in low, so I was surprised to hear that, you're saying that they're coming in over, so that's nice.
They're coming in at or over now, so which is really good for our market. It shows that it's still strong. It's still increasing, but we don't have the crazy amount of bidding wars driving it up beyond what it's actually worth. So that's a good thing right now.
Gotcha.
And that's all because of you, right, Steven?
All me. I did all of this.
Lucia, what's going on in the credit world?
So in the credit world, medical bills, Steven, you probably have noticed if you're running credit, on a daily basis, you probably noticed that you're seeing maybe a little bit less of medical bills under $500. So that's definitely been a big thing, for our clients. They're seeing these medical debts that are under $500 are, falling off their credit reports, which in a sense is helping increase their score because this derogatory information is now being removed from consumer profiles. So that's definitely something that's happening, with the credit industry here now.
Lucia, does the medical debt, if it's on their credit report derogatorily, does that fall off automatically, or do they have to do something to get it removed?
It should fall off automatically. They're real funny when they put that law into play. They did say the first half of the year. So, if it hasn't fallen off by, I would say June, the end of June, I would go ahead and reach out to a specialist to see if they can dispute that, or you can dispute it yourself. Dispute it yourself with the bureaus or reach out to a specialist who can help you with that as well.
Wow, it's amazing they actually made that correctly. Right? Usually you got to do those types of things yourself. That's nice. Nice for folks that's a problem for. Good.
I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but I'm going to just a little bit. But what are you guys' thoughts about the higher? Well, you're not if you have a lower credit score that you're not going to pay a penalty for that anymore, and that if you have a good credit score, you're going to pay a little bit higher.
Well, I'm not sure that's exactly what that's like right now, but Steven, maybe you could talk a little bit more because I know it's more affected towards conventional loans than it is for like an FHA or a VA loan or anything like that. So it's already affecting loans that required a higher credit score to begin with.
It's a little more nuanced than social media leads on, right?
I actually just posted a video probably like 10 minutes before we got on here about
Oh, nice. I'm going to share it.
Because today is like the official day, though it's been kind of in effect for a couple of months because today is when Fannie and Freddie start buying those loans. So when they start buying them, they've actually closed a month, maybe 2 months ago. So we've already seen the effects, but what happened is they broadened the credit score range where basically if you had a 740 and up, you had the same score. So they brought in 740 to 760, 760 to 780, 780 and above. And then also on the back end, Well, now they have to, if it was 740 was a half a point decrease and up, you got a half a point decrease on it. Of course, once you go down the credit scores, it gets lower and lower. It gets more and more. You can see down to like 600, you're having like a 2-point increase on the back end. But let's say that 740 was only getting a half a point decrease. Well, now they can't give the 780 because that would make everybody else get more and more. So they decreased the 780, but they spread that part that they were not getting down to everybody else. But it only kind of hit the top people. So just the top people got hit a little harder. So the changes kind of help lower credit score people in that sense. But overall, the higher credit score you have, the higher interest or the lower interest rate you're actually going to get.
Right. So don't stop trying to achieve good credit. Right. That is, a lot of people are saying, why am I going to have good credit now if I'm going to be dinged for it? I'm going to be okay being mediocre and having, a medium type of credit score, which do not do that.
Even technically, the medium score is what took the most brunt of it. And granted, it's conventional loan. The biggest hits are between putting 15 to 20% down. That's the biggest hit that takes that course with it. But it has, like I said, it's just spreading over all of them. So people just don't understand that. And it isn't hidden knowledge. If you just Google Fannie Mae LLPA, like it'll show you the exact chart of where the credit scores are, where the hits are happening, and then how the higher scores are taking less of a hit, and then it just goes down throughout the credit scores. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yep.
That makes sense.
It sure does.
You bring up a good point. Your credit score still matters because buying a house with a mortgage is not the only place that matters. And you don't want to step over $5 bills to pick up dimes. They just got to have a longer term viewpoint than that.
Absolutely. And so, Stephen, let me ask you, so a conventional loan would be used for what type of a purchase? Is that more for like investment properties, or what is that loan specified for?
It's going to be, so investment's going to be conventional or your non-traditional loan products out there. So like FHA, VA, USDA, those are for primary residents only on there. Conventional can be primary too. But with that, you're seeing, a lot of people think, conventional, you need 20% down. That's your only way of doing it. That's not true at all. You can go down as low as 3%, sometimes 3% down to 5%. So it's a wide range of what it can be for everybody out there.
Gotcha. Awesome. I always wondered about that. And so I was a little surprised when, first, the social media started blowing up where, if you have, better credit, you're going to be dinged. But would you say it's more like an interest rate increase? Like, is that what you would consider this?
So it's kind of, it basically is depending on the type of housing you're buying, condo, single family, if it's a primary, secondary investment, these are all things that affect your interest rate just off the basis of it, kind of breaking it down simply. So the more risky the loan is, which is lower credit score, less money down, going to, a condo or going to investment or a secondary home instead of it being your primary, these interest rates will slowly increase on the back end of what people are seeing, kind of thing. So it just means to get the same score as somebody that has, let's say, a 780 and it costs them, 0.3 of a point to get that score. Somebody with a 700, it might cost them 0.8 to get the same interest rate. So that's where it's coming into it with it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know the internet was having a frenzy with that one for sure when the news first came out. So great marketing tools, right? Great marketing tools, I would say.
Bad news makes clicks.
Yeah, imagine that. Social media.
Absolutely.
Social media not liking nuance or actually digging into the meat of something. Imagine that.
Absolutely. So, Eric, let's go ahead and talk about should you or shouldn't you about S corp structures. So, would you mind going over with us, what an S corp structure even is?
That's a good question. So this is a super commonly misunderstood concept. So most people, like if you ask them a question, they're like, "Oh, I'm an S corp," or "I'm organized like this." There's two different types of things out there when you're talking about like business entity structure. There's kind of your legal concepts and then your tax concepts. So when I say legal concepts, that's stuff like LLC, limited liability company, something like that, where you're actually organizing yourself as a business, registered in the state that you live in or the state that you do business. And that's the thing that governs how you run as an entity. And then you have how you're taxed. So that's the area you're talking about with S corp. You're either going to pay, like for a normal LLC, most normal LLCs, if they don't make, because you have to opt into the S corp, you're taxed as a pass-through entity, especially for a lot of like real estate agents out there being basically solopreneur, 1099 independent contractors. You're going to be taxed at your income tax rate as opposed to the corporate tax rate. And that's what the whole point of the S corp, to kind of back up and get to like why people talk about it, is to try to save money on self-employment taxes.
Gotcha.
Because that's where people not 100%, and it's totally understandable, people not 100% understanding how the taxes work. Trust me, I get why people don't want to dive into that. I do tax planning as part of what I do for financial planning, and even I don't want to dive into it a lot of times. It's very opaque. But the whole point of the S corp is to save those self-employment taxes, to try to reduce the amount that you're paying. Because,
Gotcha.
On top of income tax, you're paying that 15.3% self-employment tax as well, if you're a 1099 or your own business as well. So that's the whole point of it. And the decision, and that's where it gets really a big gray area. And if you're ever on social media kind of talking about that on the financial space, like financial Twitter or anything like that, there's always disagreements on when should somebody make the S corp election. So even the professional people that do it day in and day out, people like me, financial planners, CPAs, accountants, all them, even we all kind of disagree on when. So that's why it's such a fascinating subject, because every person's different on really when it would make sense for them to make the S corp election. That's kind of the should you or shouldn't you part of it.
Gotcha. So let's say, I am a single member LLC, but now I'm growing and now I want to hire some employees. Do I have to transition over to an S corp to be able to continue business as an LLC? Or
no, good question. Not necessarily. And usually it depends. When it comes to the S corp, you're really trying to save the owners on the self-employment tax. That's really where it comes from. Because if you're bringing over employees, you're either going to have them as 1099, so then they've got the same problem you have, where they're trying to figure it out, or you're going to pay them W-2, where you're doing the payroll for them, you're taking out the income tax, and you're paying your half of their self-employment tax, and then their half's automatically coming out. So that's the whole point of the S corp, is to really help out the owner or the owners of a small business. But then it starts getting a little confusing, because you have to, if you have employees, you setting up your own W-2 paying doesn't become as big of an issue, your own W-2 payroll, because you're already maybe having to do that for your W-2 employees. But then you have to start coming up with K-1s and all that types of stuff to log the distributions from your business to you as the owner. And that's on the side where you tend to save the self-employment tax.
Gotcha.
That is a real oversimplification of how that works. So
I think I've heard this a million times by him, and it's every time different.
it's because it's an or if we have this our CPA buddy with us, that's where things get interesting. Because a lot of times, a lot of accounting type folks tend to just look at the dollars. Like, oh, if you do an S corp election, it will save you X amount of money in taxes. And then if you take away the extra bits here and there that it costs to run payroll and do other things like that, you'll net, let's say, I'll make up a total number, you'll save $5,000 in self-employment taxes in a year. It's like, okay, but then is it worth all the extra pain it goes through to actually do an S corp properly to save that same $5,000? So that's where what I always call like return on hassle. And that's where that kind of comes in, because you get like return on investment, all that, but the return and the extra energy and effort that you put into having to then manage an S corp and manage the finances for that and hire an accountant at that point, because trust me, you're going to want to be working with an accountant or a CPA if you're starting to do an S corp. Like it's probably a good idea to, if you're growing to a substantial size, to start using an accountant. But if you're ever using an S corp, the times of you doing your own taxes on your own on QuickBooks or whatever you're using are probably behind you, and it's a good idea to maybe pay for that extra advice at that point.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to ask a really probably crazy question.
Let's hear
Or
it.
I wanted to say stupid, but here we go.
There are no stupid questions, Donna. I could say the other side, but we'll leave it at that from that movie.
So if you have an S corp, the S corp is paying you.
Mhm.
Is that how that's working?
Yes.
That's the first part of my question, right?
If you mean like a salary, like
Yes.
a W-2, yes.
So when you're receiving a salary from the S corp, are you still self-employed?
Mhm.
Yes,
Yes.
you are.
So to give you an example, kind of going off of Lucia's example, let's say you're a single member LLC. So it's just you. So it's Donna Campbell LLC. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know if that exists or not. So you got Donna Campbell LLC. You're the only member, meaning you're the sole owner. You're the only employee member within it. So if you were to make the S Corp election, you would have to figure out what a reasonable salary is. And this is also the next point I'd like to get to. You have to pay your, in the IRC, the Internal Revenue Code, it says reasonable salary. You have to pay yourself that. You can't pay yourself like $5 and then the other $100,000 of net business income comes through as a distribution and you don't pay any self-employment tax on that. You're not allowed to do that. But there's no real guidance.
Oh, Stephen.
Well,
you do it.
I know what that guy's up to.
Yeah.
But there's no actual guidance in the code about what a reasonable salary is. That's where it gets tricky. So if we just say your net business income for your practice is $100,000. So after expenses and all that, it's $100,000 in profit. There's some calculations in there and some methods. You'll hear some accountants and CPAs say about 30 to 40% of your net business income is reasonable for a salary. If $100,000 is your business income, that's $30 to $40,000 a year. You're paying yourself W-2. The rest would then get distributed as basically a distribution from your business. You'd still pay income tax on that, but that's where you save on the self-employment tax. But if you get audited, you have to be able to, that's the thing with like all this tax stuff, is you could put a lot of stuff into QuickBooks or file your taxes and you're able to do it, it's fine. But then a few years down the road, you get audited. You're going to have to prove to the IRS that the deductions you took or the reasons you did X, Y, and Z, the burden of proof to prove it was correct is on you. It's not on them to prove to you that they're right. You have to prove that you're right. So another kind of method I've heard some people say, there's the 30 to 40% rule. There's also, go to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and let's use realtors as an example. Look up what the average salary is for a realtor across the nation, or try to narrow it down to like Florida, because that's where we're at.
I think it's 37,000.
There you go. So if that's the average salary or earnings or whatever of a real estate agent, you could go with the IRS, say you get audited, God forbid. You could say, hey, this is 30 to 40% of my net business income. This is also the average salary of a real estate agent within the state of Florida. You at least have some stuff to fall back on to kind of cover your butt. But that's usually one of the big areas, because that's the area a lot of people try to avoid taxes, is, hey, I paid myself $5, even though my net business income was $100,000. That's not going to fly. Even QuickBooks, I don't think would let you put that in there. It might say, hey, you sure about this? This is a little low compared to your income.
Would you mind letting everybody know where they can contact you at? And I can have Juan scroll that across the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, so my website, vanirwealth.com, VANIR Wealth. That's got areas where you can set up an appointment. It's got my contact info on it there. So that's usually the easiest place to go. Or you could search it on YouTube too. I got a little YouTube channel there where I try to spit pearls of wisdom out at folks with varying degrees of success.
All right. Thank you so much. And everyone, you can obviously reach out to the show here at 561-685-6663. If you have any questions for Eric, I'll be glad to get those over to him. And we're hoping to have Jillian Montague from Core Title with us today, but she had a little something going on, so she will be coming back to join us on our next show. But now we're going to go over to Mr. Brock. And this is the guy that I got a $15,000 seller credit for. And we closed with very little money out of the pocket. And I don't know, he's done a lot of great things and all the deals that we've done together. But I thought I'd have him talk to us a little bit today about the Live Local Act, as well as getting a VA loan. So, Stephen.
Yes.
Should I or shouldn't I become part of the Live Local Act?
Well, it is a great act. I mean, it helped. The precursor before it was the Hometown Hero program. So it was all our first responders that needed, they were first-time homebuyers that haven't lived and owned a primary house in the last 3 years. So it gave them up to 5% of the loan amount, up to $25,000 to buy a home for down. And this is one of the only programs that would actually help pay for down payment assistance and closing costs. Most of those down payment assistance programs is one or the other. You have to pick which one you're going to do. So this one basically says, hey, if all your down payment is covered and you still have extra, we'll put it towards the closing cost. Well, the state has decided now that program is going to be open to all first-time home buyers in Florida. So that'll be a great thing. And they're also increasing it up to $35,000 for that payment. So still 5% of the loan amount, but up to $35,000 now of that loan amount can be used for your down payment assistance and closing cost. So it is a great program out there. That goes into effect July 1st. So we're here recording this May 1st. So really people that are starting to look now, and maybe by the next month or so, thinking they might be under contract, this program is going to actually be good for them, because they will be able to use that because they don't have to, as long as they're closing after July 1st is when that goes into effect.
I seen a thing this morning that in regards to how much income you can make, it goes up to $130,000
For Palm Beach County.
For Palm Beach County.
Yep. So it's all for the county. I think it's 125%, could be wrong on that, of the average median of each county in there.
So it's like 700. This goes up to $718,000, I believe, in the sales price of a home.
Correct.
So if I can get 5%, and I can put 3% down or 3.5%, Stephen.
Depending on because it's for conventional or FHA or VA or USDA. So it's not a loan type. It's just a assistance program for whatever loan type you're using.
But it can be used for both closing cost and down payment.
Correct. So like somebody with a VA,
that is awesome.
They don't have.
That's so great.
They might not have a down payment on VA. Like you don't have to put it. Since we're talking about that too, they don't have to put a down payment on. So they basically can pay for the inspection, and then pay for nothing else, because that program is going to pay for all their closing costs.
Wow.
So done it a couple.
That is
times
awesome.
already.
So what is the minimum percent on a conventional loan you can put down?
3.
3. And the same with FHA?
3.5.
3.5. A little bit more.
Yeah.
So gosh, I mean, you would be, if you did a conventional, you would literally be looking at maybe coming out 1% out of your pocket on the purchase price.
Maybe. Really could be.
Close.
I tell people, like, you're thinking anywhere between 5 to 7% of the purchase price is what you're going to need to close, down payment and closing costs. So if you think that takes 5% away, you're really between 0 to 2% now. So just depending on insurance and taxes of the home, those are the biggest 2 things that are going to affect that closing cost number.
What advice?
That is awesome.
It's so exciting, isn't it?
It's great.
And of course, nothing's for free. This does have to be paid back whenever you sell the home or
But it's interest free.
pay it off.
So it's just sitting there.
Interest free.
Yeah. So eventually
That is awesome.
So the state's like, hey, eventually it's going to be self-funding. Like they might have to increase it a little bit every year, but it's basically going to be self-funding eventually.
I plan on selling that girl up there with the red and plaid shirt on a house this summer. She's probably got a lot of agents aiming for her.
Oh, yeah.
No way.
Yeah, well, because we've been here for like a year and a half. We've been in Florida for about a year and a half. So we're, just like probably half of the people that live here or more, we're in a townhouse. So we own Great Danes and we need a backyard, right? So we're like, instead of moving into a rental that's going to cost me anywhere between $7,000 and $9,000 just to move, and then I'm going to have to pay rent in 30 days. Why not, now that this new program is out, why not get my ducks in a row and let's just purchase, right? So that's where we've been, because we're going to ditch out $7,000 to $9,000 just to move in Florida, in Palm Beach, Florida. So, maybe purchasing would be a better option.
Yeah, too. And if you are trying to rent, and you're trying to rent a single family home, you definitely have to pay at least $3,000 for it or more. What I'm seeing out there right now is like the ones that I would want to live in start at about $4,500, and they're not over the top or anything like that at all. You can go get that for tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands. But I think it's just a great time to quit spending money on rent. And it's been 3 years since I owned a house too, Stephen.
There we go.
Brock.
Got two people.
So
Yeah. We did the math the other day, and us paying $2,600 a month, we've spent $35,000 a year in rents. So once that number, was calculated, we were like, oh yeah, we have to do something.
Yeah.
Now you're speaking my language and see it.
There you go. And you'll see a lot of people. Does it make more sense to rent to buy? Like 99% of the time, yes, it makes more sense to buy. Unless you are just moving somewhere, have no clue where you're going to be, then yeah, okay, you're going to rent. Or hey, I'm going to be there temporarily, or hey, my job's not stable, whatever it is, like that's why you rent. But like I said, that's 1% of the time. The 99% other percent of the time, it's going to be looking at actually buying the home and starting building your own equity in it. And that's where Eric loves to come in and build equity. He's a caveat on.
I'm gonna keep
either way kind of thing.
We'll leave it at that one.
It does make more sense to buy than rent basic numbers.
yes.
But every situation, it can be different. And that's where you have to start figuring that out.
Yeah.
On that end.
Well,
Kind of.
I don't remember who said that the Marketing Madness meeting last week. Who was like, hey, you need to figure this stuff out like way ahead of time. Start prepping like a year plus. That's the biggest issue people run into. I'm sure you see a lot, Stephen, is people trying to throw everything together at the last second. They have no clue what they can actually afford because they just think principal and interest and taxes. That's all it costs to own a home. You're like, no, there's a lot more that goes into it over the long run that maybe you're not thinking about. And that's why that long-term prep is so important to figure out. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, most people think there's a quicker turnaround. I mean, and it can happen. I mean, it can be a very quick turnaround. You might be ready and you don't know it. And suddenly you look at it and you're like, hey, I'm ready. Or we look at it and say, hey, this is your plan. Like you got 6 months. You need to do these things to get there and understand your budget too per month kind of thing. Because it's very easy for me and any loan officer to go out there and be like, you can afford an $800 or an $8,000 payment a month. Doesn't mean that's your budget. Mm-hmm. What are you actually comfortable with? And you're the only one that can really decide that, or with your financial advisor can decide what that monthly payment should be for you.
That's why I love you already running the numbers with all that stuff, Lucia, and trying to figure it out. So you're not making that mistake that a lot of people do, rushing way too quickly into it. But you got a good business head on your shoulders too. So I'm not surprised you're doing all that stuff right.
Thank you. Why, thank you.
Well, because I had to change my studio, there's some background noise, and I apologize for that. I keep muting myself. But Stephen, in regards to VA loans, what type of activity are you seeing right now?
So I might be a little biased on a VA loan. I still think it's the best loan out there, and it actually back end numbers and the forgiveness, it is the best loan out there, and it should be. What a VA loan actually qualifies you off is your residual income. Like, what can you actually afford? Not just, hey, your debt to income number is this, but it takes into other accounts of what could be out there. How Eric was talking, like, I don't take into account your electrical bill, water bill, cable, all that's only what's on your credit report, and then what's going to be on your mortgage. So a VA loan, when somebody's actually qualified for that loan, they're probably qualified a lot stronger than somebody else, conventional or FHA, at the same monthly payment price point. That being said, it's a great program because no money down. You don't have to have any money down. There's no mortgage insurance needed on the property. Technically, the government is insuring it itself for the veteran. So those are some great aspects of it. The misconceptions I would say people believe in are the appraisals. They're like, oh, the appraisals come in lower. The comps are the comps. The appraisers that go out there, as long as it's with a reputable lender, their appraiser pool can do VA appraisers because it's just a certificate for them to do it. And so they're going to still review the comps and everything's going to look good there. The other issue that people come up with is like, oh, it's going to need all these repairs and all these things. They're looking for safety issues. Are there tripping hazards, electrical wiring hanging out? What's a life and death hazard that's out there? That's what they're going to be looking for. So other things than from that being seen, it's still the best loan product that's out there for the consumer.
Do you what is the misconception that's out there that there's only there's this one loan company that just does VA loans?
I mean, there could be that. I mean, that could be your specialty and that's all you do. I don't know. Does USAA only do VA?
Aren't there a few of those? I see the commercials all the
time. They might just say that it's the same thing. Like, as Eric's saying, like there's you can be a financial advisor or you can be whatever in the financial world, like have whatever name. Like somebody can say that, hey, they do VA loans and they're certified to do them, and that's the only thing they're going to do. That's their choice. They don't want to do anything else with it. But doesn't mean they're the only ones that do VA loans, kind of thing. So a lot of people think, oh, that's all I do is VA loans, so you should come to me with it because I'm the only one that does them. That's not true at all. Well, there's many companies that do it out there.
Do you mind if I jump in real quick and share a story? Because there's a few companies out there, I won't say any, but I think they specialize in VA loans.
Yes.
And, God, people, like during annual training when I'm doing my reserves annual training or other times you're talking to other folks in the service, I've never heard of somebody having a very good experience with a lot of those places. Maybe a little anecdotal, but I've never heard someone say, boy, XYZ company that specializes in VA loans does a great job. So I don't know, maybe it's a little plug for work with a good local person who also does it, but
I'll take that. Make sure that check doesn't bounce for you.
How many homes can you own with a VA loan?
As many as you have eligibility for. So it's...
What's the eligibility?
So you have a eligibility of how much a loan amount that the VA is going to guarantee on it, and eventually it does run out, and therefore now you're the one that has to provide that guarantee, which by providing that guarantee means put a down payment in there. So you can have multiple VA loans. Posted a video, I think at the end of last week, beginning of this week, about a client that they were told no, they could not do a second VA loan. They had to sell the other property. And I told them, like, yeah, you can. We just got to look up your eligibility, see if it's there, or you're going to have to put a down payment down to make that eligibility work. But he had enough eligibility there. Still had it. So he's buying his second home, which he's making in his primary. It's not a second home, but it's his second one VA loan with the primary, and going to be renting out the first one, both under the same eligibility. So it is possible. So it's actually being able to talk to somebody that actually knows their guidelines and is actually going to go through it and be like, okay, this is what we need to look at. But you can have as many as you can fall under eligibility, or you want to guarantee it, but it has to be your primary house every time you're buying it. So you can't sit there and go and buy investments with it, but you can, hey, I bought a 1-1 when I first moved to Florida. Now I have a family, I'm moving up to this, or hey, I'm moving out of state, somewhere else. I'm buying my next primary. Like, you can do that with the VA loan and keeping those other ones.
That's why it's so important to get, a second opinion sometimes, because, he probably could have walked away with, hey, taking that answer for what it was and walked away, from this home that he was trying to purchase. So that's great that, he reached out to you and got a second opinion.
Yeah. I mean, and he did walk away. Like, he basically was done. We were just happening to be somewhere talking, and he was talking about it. And I'm like, we need to look at your stuff. Like, what you're saying isn't, I mean, it's not true. Like, I might pull his eligibility and be like, hey, yeah, you can't use your eligibility, so you got to put the down payment, but you still can do a VA loan. But he was just told, no, you can't do it. So that's when you kind of like red flag comes up. If you're like, oh, my eligibility's gone, I have no money for down payment. Like, okay, yeah, you got. Where are you gonna get the down payment? Sell the other house. Like,
that's what most people think.
Yeah,
I know we've had this conversation. That like 90-some% of people think, oh, you can only have one VA loan at a time. But it's a little more, like with most things, it's a little more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
Well, in regards to the real estate market right now, we have an average list price in Palm Beach County of $575, $565 in Broward County, and $375 in Port St. Lucie. A lot of activity going on. Our prices are holding. They are not going down. They're actually up just a little bit, about 6% over last year. We do have a lot more inventory on the market currently, and that's great because when you're out looking, you don't have to feel so pressured sometimes to, put an offer in over asking at this point. We're seeing most things close within 10% of whatever the price is. So
that's awesome.
Sounds like a little more negotiation room for folks.
yes, absolutely.
There definitely is. How Donna said, I mean, she negotiated like a little over, was it actually at 15 grand or a little over 15 grand? I mean, that was only,
we got 17 total.
yeah,
But
like only a couple of months ago. So, I mean, it was just really starting to come in. So that was really good.
And what I loved about that particular transaction, obviously, it was my daughter to begin with, right? And her husband, and they're my new grandchild, who's now 2 years old. But within 3 weeks, I think we closed on February 8th or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Sabrina's birthday was on March 15th. And between that time of closing and March 15th, a new roof was put on the house. And, insurance wasn't that bad to begin with. It was like, $2,700 or something like that.
Yeah, I think with the old roof.
With the old roof. And now it's going to drop down another $1,200 because they got a new roof. And they didn't get a shingle roof. They got a metal roof. And what an improvement it made on that home. It just gave it a complete facelift. So, they really, we did good on that one, Stephen. And now we got another one. We got to get Joe.
We're working on it.
Next. We are.
Stephen, don't let your head
Well,
get
I just
too
wanted
big. You
to
might
throw
not
out
make it
there.
The office.
Yeah. And
So I just wanted to throw it out there, guys. Both of you being veterans, our company definitely appreciates your services and everybody else who has served. And we offer 50% off our entire services to any veteran. So if you are a veteran out there who's needing some credit repair services, let's take advantage of the amazing programs that are available. Let's get your credit right, and let's get you guys into home ownership.
That sounds great, Lucia.
Yes.
I think that's great. Anybody that has, when I run their credit, I'm like, ooh, like that's a little close. Like, they go right to you every single time. Like, there's some small things that I know, like, okay, here, but I'm like, no, go to her. She's going to do it. Or like, hey, we're going to do this because we can get you that small thing to work. I'm like, but after closing, that's where you're going. Start building that up.
There you go.
anything. I hope I never
Also-
personally have to use you, but
Right.
For anyone that wants to take part in the Live Local Act and you need credit repair services, if you work with Lucia at closing as your real estate agent, I'll give you back your money that you spent on repairing your credit as a gift to you for closing costs. So we just want to make homeownership a reality for everyone. And we're getting ready to close the show for the day. So we want to remind you that we're here every Monday at 3 o'clock, hoping to bring you great knowledge. And I'd like to just go around and let my guests leave you with one last word. And thank you again for tuning in today. Eric?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I guess the last thing I'll leave you with is, especially when it comes to your personal finances, personal finance is personal. So while there's a lot of rules of thumb out there, you've really got to figure out what makes sense for you by figuring out your purpose and what you're looking for in life.
Thank you. Stephen?
oh man, why do you have to go first? I gotta follow that up. Mortgages are personal too now. I will just say that it's never a no. It's whoever you talk to, whoever it is, it's never a no. Go with your gut feeling with them and make sure that you're actually having a plan. You just want them to be told no and they want to shoo you away. It might be because they don't have a loan program or whatever, but make sure whoever you're talking to, you get a plan on what your next steps are going to be to get that home.
Thank you. Lucia?
I want to say your dreams can definitely be a reality, and with a great team by your side, it's going to be even more possible. So it's very important to have a great team. If you do not have one, reach out to any of us. We're more than happy to get you in contact with some great people.
Yes. And I'm Donna Campbell, your show's host, signing off for today. Thanking you so much for tuning in. Please give us a call if we can help you. Thank you for listening to Real Estate Dreams and Beyond. Your real estate dreams can come true. See you next time. Thank you, everyone. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank
Have
you.
a good one.
Thanks, Donna. Thanks, Lucia.
Thank you.